Marcus Webb had never been one for fancy restaurants, but tonight felt like an exception worth making. 3 months of hauling mediocre cargo through asteroid fields and dodging pirates had finally paid off literally. The Viridian Consortium had transferred enough credits to his account to cover ship repairs, fuel, and still leave him with a comfortable cushion. The kind of cushion that let a man sit in a place like the Celestial Fork without wincing at the menu prices that the restaurant occupied the crown level of Elysium 7, a sprawling space station that served as a neutral hub for dozens of species. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the cosmos stretched infinite and beautiful, stars scattered like diamonds on black velvet. Marcus adjusted his collar, feeling slightly out of place in the borrowed dress shirt. His usual attire ran more toward worn flight jackets and cargo pants. "Welcome to the Celestial Fork," a tall, mantis-like server approached with fluid grace. Its compound eyes reflected the ambient lighting in kaleidoscope patterns. "I am Techlearn. May I offer you our specialty menu this evening?" Marcus leaned back in the ergonomic chair, which adjusted automatically to his human frame. "What do you recommend?" "Our chef has prepared something quite extraordinary tonight." Techlearn's mandibles clicked in what might have been enthusiasm. "Fresh catch from the nearest deep, extremely rare, prepared in the traditional style of your homeworld. The meat is said to be incredibly tender." "Sounds perfect," Marcus said, though something in the server's tone made him uneasy. He'd eaten at enough stations to know that traditional style could mean anything from grilled to still moving on the plate. "Excellent choice. Would you prefer it alive or freshly prepared?" Marcus blinked. "Freshly prepared. Definitely. As you wish." Techlearn bowed and glided away between tables filled with various species, some humanoid, others decidedly alien. He sipped his drink, something the bartender had promised was close to Earth whiskey, but tasted more like liquid starlight mixed with honey. Not unpleasant, just unexpected. Around him, conversations bubbled in a dozen languages, some musical, others harsh and clicking. This was what he loved about the frontier: the chaos, the diversity, the sense that anything could happen. 20 minutes later, Techlearn returned. But instead of pushing a serving cart, the server was accompanied by 2 burly Crobian guards. Between them shuffled a figure that made Marcus's heart stop. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin held an iridescent quality, like pearl or mother of pearl, shifting between pale blues and soft greens, depending on the light. Long hair the color of deep ocean water fell past her shoulders, and her eyes, those extraordinary violet eyes, met his with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. She wore what could only be described as decorative bindings, more ornamental than functional, and her wrists were bound with elegant silver chains. "Your selection, sir," Techlearn announced. A genuine Aquarian female, captured from the nearest deep just 3 cycles ago. Quite rare, as their species rarely ventures into areas where they can be procured. She has been kept in optimal saltwater conditions and fed a special diet to enhance flavor. Marcus felt his stomach turn to ice. "This is the catch?" "Indeed. Aquarian flesh is prized for its delicate texture. Would you like us to begin preparation here, or shall we take her to the private kitchen?" The woman the Aquarian stood trembling, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. He could see the pulse fluttering in her throat, could see the way her fingers clenched despite the chains. She was terrified. She was sentient. She was alive in every way that mattered. "No," Marcus said firmly. Techlearn's head tilted. "No to which option, sir?" "No to all of it." Marcus stood, his chair scraping back. "I'm not eating her. I'm not eating anyone." "Sir, you've already been charged." "I don't care." Marcus moved around the table, approaching the guards. "I'm taking her with me. Consider it ... takeout." The guards exchanged glances. One of them, a thick-skinned Crobian with scarred knuckles, growled low in his throat. Restaurant policy requires all specialty orders to be consumed on premises. Ensures freshness. And I'm changing that policy. Marcus pulled out his credit chip, his mind racing. I'll pay double, triple, whatever it takes. She's leaving with me, alive and intact. TechLearn's mandibles clicked rapidly distress, Marcus guessed. Sir, this is highly irregular. Our chef has already prepared the accompaniments. Then I'll pay for those too. Marcus transferred a sum that made his carefully saved cushion considerably thinner. There, paid in full with a generous tip. Now remove those chains. The Aquarian's eyes widened with something like hope. She spoke for the first time, her voice melodic despite the fear threading through it. You're not going to. Eat you? No. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I'm getting you out of here. TechLearn consulted a tablet, its compound eyes reflecting the transaction details. Finally, it gestured to the guards. Very well. The customer has paid. However, I must note that the Celestial Fork accepts no responsibility for the ... once it leaves our establishment. Product. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he kept his expression neutral as one of the guards removed the chains from the Aquarian's wrists. She rubbed them immediately, and he noticed the faint markings where the metal had pressed into her iridescent skin. Can you walk? He asked quietly. She nodded, drawing herself up straighter. Despite everything, there was a dignity to her posture that spoke of strength not yet broken. Yes, but they'll come after us. The restaurant is connected to... Tell me once we're clear, Marcus interrupted, offering her his jacket. She took it gratefully, draping it over her shoulders. It swallowed her smaller frame, but it was better than the decorative scraps she'd been wearing. They moved toward the exit, Marcus's hand hovering near the concealed plasma pistol at his back. Years of flying dangerous routes had taught him to never go anywhere completely unarmed, even fancy restaurants. Especially fancy restaurants. Apparently as they passed through the doors into the station's main corridor, the Aquarian let out a shuddering breath. Thank you. I thought this was how I would die. Not tonight, Marcus said, guiding her toward the docking bay levels. What's your name? Narita. She kept pace with him, her movements fluid despite obvious exhaustion. And you are? Marcus Webb, captain of the Wandering Star. He risked a glance at her. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Her expression fell. No, they took me from a transport ship 3 weeks ago. My crew is probably dead or scattered across the sector by now. Then you're coming with me. The decision was instant, instinctive. We'll figure out the rest once we're off this station. You don't know me, Narita said softly. Why risk this? Marcus thought about that as they hurried through the crowded corridors, past shops and entertainment venues and other restaurants that probably served equally horrific delicacies. Why was he risking this? The smart play would have been to walk away, to not even order the damn special in the first place. But when he looked at Narita at the hope and fear, and fierce will to survive in those violet eyes, he knew exactly. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. And because nobody deserves to be on a menu. Behind them, alarms began to sound. The alarm shrieked through Elysium 7's corridors like wounded animals. Marcus grabbed Narita's hand, her skin cool and smooth against his palm, and pulled her into a sprint toward the docking levels. Around them, station traffic continued its usual flow, merchants hawking wares, tourists gawking at alien architecture, workers heading to their shifts. Most ignored the alarms. False alerts were common enough on a station this size. They're not going to let us just walk away, Narita gasped, keeping pace despite her bare feet slapping against the metal deck plates. The Celestial Fork is owned by the Obsidian Collective. They have enforcers throughout the station. How many levels down were you kept? Marcus asked, his tactical mind already working through escape routes. Sublevel 9. The holding tanks. She shuddered. There were others. Dozens of us, from different species. All destined for someone's plate. Marcus felt rage burn in his chest, but he channeled it into focus. Emotions could get you killed in situations like this. The collective, they're the trafficking syndicate that's been expanding through the sector. You know of them? Hard not to. They've been muscling in on legitimate trade routes for the past year. He pulled her into a service corridor, away from the main thoroughfare. I didn't know they'd gotten into this. The corridor led to a maintenance junction. Marcus accessed a terminal, fingers flying over the holographic interface. My ship's in docking bay 42. That's 3 levels down and half a kilometer across the station wheel. They'll have the bay sealed, Narita said, moving closer to look at the station schematic. Her wet hair dripped onto his borrowed jacket, leaving dark spots. Standard protocol for escaped merchandise. Merchandise, Marcus repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. Is that what they called you? Among other things. Her violet eyes met his, and he saw steel beneath the fear. I was a navigator, you know. Before, I could chart courses through nebulae that would tear most ships apart. Now I'm just product. You're not product. Marcus found what he was looking for, a maintenance shaft that ran parallel to the docking bays. You're Narita, and you're getting off this station alive. She smiled then, small and fragile, but genuine. You're either very brave or very foolish, Marcus Webb. I've been told it's both. He pried open the access panel. Can you climb? I'm Aquarian. We're built for 3-dimensional movement. She peered into the shaft. But I should warn you, I need water. Real water, not just humidity. Every few hours or my skin starts to crack. The Wandering Star has a full recycling system with a shower. Will that work? It'll have to. They descended into the shaft, Marcus leading the way. The station's infrastructure surrounded them, pipes, conduits, the electrical hum of life support systems. Below, he could hear the distant rush of the water recycling system, thousands of gallons being filtered and redistributed throughout Elysium 7. There, Narita pointed to a larger pipe. That's a main water line. Leads down to the processing center, which connects to the docking bay maintenance tunnels. Marcus studied the pipe. It was wide enough to crawl through, but it would be completely filled with water. You're suggesting we swim through the station's plumbing? I'm suggesting I swim and pull you. She was already removing his jacket, handing it back. I can hold my breath for 3 hours, you? 3 minutes on a good day. Narita reached up and touched his face, her fingers cool and gentle. Then trust me. I won't let you drown. There was something in her eyes, a certainty, a competence that reminded Marcus why he'd been drawn to the frontier in the first place. Out here, people were what they made of themselves, not what their circumstances dictated. Okay, he said. I trust you. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Hold your breath and don't panic. I'll get us through. Marcus barely had time to suck in air before Narita pulled him into the water pipe. The cold hit him like a physical blow, and then they were moving. Narita's strong grip around his waist as she propelled them through the darkness. Her body moved with an efficiency that was almost mesmerizing, legs working in unison, arms pulling them forward. Through the murky water, he could see her hair spreading around them like ink, her iridescent skin glowing faintly. His lungs began to burn. Narita sensed it immediately, pulling him closer. She pressed her mouth to his, not a kiss, but something else. He felt her breathe into him, sharing her air, and the burning eased. Their eyes met in the dimness, faces inches apart, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest that had nothing to do with oxygen deprivation. They surfaced in a maintenance pool, gasping. Well, Marcus gasped. Narita simply emerged like she'd been born to the water, which he supposed. She had been. That was ... double quotes. Marcus couldn't find words. Efficient, Narita supplied. But her cheeks had darkened to a deeper blue. We should keep moving. The maintenance tunnels were cramped and poorly lit, but they ran directly beneath the docking bays. Marcus checked his handheld no direct signals from station security yet, but that wouldn't last. He pulled up the Wandering Star's remote access and began prepping her for immediate departure. Tell me about your ship, Narita said as they navigated the tunnels. Her voice echoed softly off the metal walls. She's a modified Corsair-class freighter. Fast, maneuverable, and just large enough to avoid most scanner attention. I've been flying her for 5 years. Alone? Mostly. I take on crew for specific runs, but... He shrugged. I prefer the quiet. Must get lonely. Marcus glanced back at her. In the dim emergency lighting, her skin seemed to shimmer. Sometimes. What about you? You said you were a navigator? For the deep current. We ran scientific expeditions into uncharted regions. Her voice grew distant. My people, the Aquarians, we have an innate sense for spatial relationships. Water currents, gravitational flows, it all makes sense to us in ways other species struggle with. We were returning from a survey mission when the collective ambushed us. Your crew? The captain tried to fight. The collective killed her first, as an example. Narita's hands clenched. The rest they scattered across the black market. I ended up at the Celestial Fork because Aquarian flesh is apparently a delicacy. We're rare enough to be exotic, but not protected by any major government. That changes now, Marcus said firmly. Once we're clear, I'm transmitting everything I know about the Celestial Fork and the collective to every news outlet in the sector. They'll come after you. Let them. They reached a ladder that led up to docking bay access. Marcus climbed first, checking his plasma pistol before cracking the hatch. The bay stretched before them, a vast chamber filled with ships of every size and configuration. The Wandering Star sat in her berth, sleek and battle-scarred, beautiful in her utilitarian way. There she is, Marcus said with unmistakable pride. But between them and the ship stood 3 collective enforcers, massive beings in powered armor. Weapons drawn. Marcus Webb, the lead enforcer's voice boomed through speakers. You have stolen collective property. Surrender, and your death will be quick. I didn't steal anything, Marcus called back, positioning himself in front of Narita. I purchased her, receipt and all. The merchandise was not meant to leave alive. You have violated protocol. Your protocol can go straight to hell. The enforcers raised their weapons. Marcus's mind raced through scenarios, none of them good. 3-to-1 odds, they had better armor and weapons, and he had a civilian to protect. But he'd been in tight spots before. Marcus, Narita whispered behind him. The sprinkler system. It's connected to the main water recycling. He understood immediately. Can you do it from here? Give me 30 seconds. Marcus stepped forward, hands raised in seeming surrender, buying time. Look, we can work this out. I'm sure the collective is reasonable. The collective is not reasonable, the enforcer interrupted. The collective is absolute. Final warning. The bay's emergency sprinkler system exploded to life, water cascading from hundreds of nozzles. The enforcers cursed, their sensor systems immediately compromised. But Narita moved like a ghost through the artificial rain. Marcus saw flashes of movement. She'd grabbed a piece of metal piping, was using it with surprising skill. One enforcer went down, then another. Marcus didn't waste the opportunity. He fired his plasma pistol, the shots precise despite the water. The third enforcer fell. Run! Narita shouted, and they sprinted across the bay, The Wandering Star's boarding ramp lowered at Marcus's transmitted command. They rushed inside, and he slapped the emergency seal control. The ship's engines were already warming. He'd set them to auto-sequence during their approach. "Strap in," Marcus called, racing to the cockpit. Narita followed, taking the navigator's seat as if she'd been born to it. Her wet hands flew over the controls, and Marcus saw navigation data begin to populate his screen's data he hadn't even requested yet. "You're good," he said, impressed. "I told you." She flashed him a smile. "Get us out of here, and I'll show you routes that'll make your head spin." Station security was hailing them, threats and demands filling the comm channels. Marcus ignored them all, focusing on the delicate dance of disengaging from the docking clamps without triggering the station's defensive systems. The Wandering Star shuddered, then pulled free. "They're launching interceptors," Narita reported, her voice calm despite the danger. "Of course they are." Marcus pushed the engines, feeling his ship respond like an extension of his own body. "Hold on." They shot out of Elysium 7's docking bay, and the void embraced them. Behind, 3 station security vessels gave chase, but Narita was already plotting a course that threaded through the nearby asteroid field, a course that should have been impossible to calculate that quickly. "There," she pointed to a gap between 2 tumbling rocks. 30 degrees port, full throttle. Marcus didn't question her. He'd learned to trust good instincts, and everything about Narita screamed competence. The Wandering Star danced through the asteroids, and one by one, the pursuing ships fell back, unable or unwilling to match their trajectory. Finally, they broke clear, and Marcus engaged the jump drive. The stars stretched, and reality folded. In the sudden silence of jump space, Marcus and Narita looked at each other. Her hair had dried in wild waves around her face. His heart was still pounding. They were alive. They were free. "So," Marcus said, a smile tugging at his lips. "That was exciting." Narita laughed, the sound bright and unexpected. "Is it always like this with you?" "Usually it's quieter." "You're a bad influence." "Me?" She touched her chest in mock offense, and the gesture made his breath catch. "You're the one who bought me off a menu. Best impulse purchase I ever made." They stared at each other, the moment stretching. Then Narita stood, moving closer. "Thank you, Marcus. Truly, you risked everything for a stranger." "You're not a stranger anymore," he said softly. "Partners, at least for now?" She held out her hand, and he took it. Her skin had warmed in the ship's climate-controlled air, but her touch still sent electricity through him. "Partners," Narita agreed, "though I should probably find some actual clothes." "Your jacket was nice, but—" Marcus stood, suddenly very aware of how close they were in the small cockpit. "Right, clothes. There's a storage locker in the crew quarters. Help yourself to anything." "And after that?" she asked, not moving away. "After that, we figure out our next move. Together." Narita nodded, but she didn't release his hand. "I was so scared in that restaurant. But when I saw your face, when you said no," her voice grew thick. "You gave me hope. You gave me purpose," Marcus replied. "I've been drifting for a while now, Narita. Just flying from job to job, system to system. Maybe it's time I stood for something. The collective won't stop. They have resources across a dozen sectors. Then we'll need help." Marcus pulled up his contact list. "I know some people. Journalists, former military, even a few government officials who owe me favors. If we can expose what they're doing, they'll be too busy defending themselves to come after us," Narita finished. Her violet eyes sparkled. "You're not just a traitor, are you? Former military pilot, actually? Left after one too many questionable orders." He grinned. "Turns out I have a problem with authority." "Good," Narita said. So do I. They stood there in the gentle hum of jump space. Two people who'd been running from their pasts until a chance encounter at a restaurant had changed everything. Outside, the universe waited with all its dangers and possibilities. But for now, they were safe. They were together. And that was enough.